Now let's talk about how we can prevent XSS vulnerabilities. The way these vulnerabilities happen is because whenever a user enters something into a text box or into a parameter, that input is displayed into the HTML. So it's treated as if it's part of the page, and therefore, if there is JavaScript in it, the code is being executed. So to prevent this exploit, the best thing to do is to try and minimize the usage of untrusted input. So anytime a user inputs something or anytime something's input from parameters, try to minimize that. Also, make sure that you always escape whatever that's going to be displayed or used into the HTML page. Because XSS can not only be injected into places where things are displayed on the page, but it can also be injected into parameters of certain elements of the HTML page. So what I mean by escaping is converting each of these characters to what they would be represented by in HTML. You can do that using scripts, and you can do that using your own script. Now let me show you how this happens. Now I'm here at my vulnerable web page that we were using, and I'm going to go to the stored one. And obviously you can see that every time we click on that, the XSS runs. So let's inspect this element. Now this element is where we injected our alert. And if we right click and go on inspect element, it will show us the HTML of this page, or the HTML of this particular element right here highlighted. So I'm going to make this bigger. And if we look at it right here, you'll see that we have the name, and that's Zaid. And then the other input, which is the message, it's a script. And the script, what the script does, it does alert XSS. So it's exactly what we injected into it when we did the comment. So every time we run this page, this piece of code is executed. So what we need to do is we need to make sure every time a user enters something, and that something will be displayed on a page, or that something will be used somewhere in the element. So even the ID here, or even the ID is just, for example, is a parameter of the div. It's not displayed. You never see this ID, but this can be injected as well. So hackers can actually try to inject stuff into the parameters. They can try to inject stuff into the image attributes, for example. They can do an image and inject stuff into the source or into the URL. So this is just an example here. And every time a user's input is going to be used anywhere on the page. So even if you don't see it, if you usually don't see it, you need to make sure that you escape that input and make sure that it does not contain any code. And if it contains any code, then it's converted to its HTTP equivalent. Once you escape this, you'll actually see this in the message. So you see the message as script alert XSS, but it will never be executed. This script will never actually be executed on the target person when they run it. And this is exactly what the high security level implements. So let me go to the security settings. And let me close this. And I'm going to set this to high. I'm going to submit it. And we'll go back to our reflected. It's the same measurement are taken in the reflected and in the stored. And now if we try to inject any of our codes that we were doing before, for example, if we try to inject this script, so script alert XSS, and then we close the script, you'll see the script exactly the same way that you would have seen a normal name. So if we say Zaid here, you'll just see my name. And if we inject our script, you'll see it appearing as if it's a normal name. It doesn't appear, you don't only see what's between the tags, and then the code doesn't even get executed. If we look at the source, you'll see that you see all the tags. So you can see the script tag, you can see the close of the script tag, and everything is being injected properly. So you think that this should work, but it doesn't work because the website or the web page or the browser knows that these tags should be treated as HTML characters and should not be treated as part of the code. And this is all thanks to a function that's being used here, which is called the HTML special characters. So it's all thanks to this function. So whatever you're inputting in the name, it's being filtered through this function. Now this function will iterate over each character that you entered, and it'll tell HTML or the browser, it'll change it to its equivalent in HTML code. Therefore, the browser will know that this is not part of the code, and this is part of what should be displayed on screen as text. And this way, no matter what you try to inject, it will be converted to HTML code, which will just be displayed on screen like normal text or normal characters. Now, as a user, to prevent yourself from being used into an XSS attack, now the URL coming to you will probably look like a URL of a trusted website. For example, let's assume that you work in a company and there was an XSS in your company and you were logging into your company and the code gets executed on you, then there isn't much you can do yourself. But you need to be careful. So with Beef, we saw in order to exploit the vulnerabilities, we were showing, for example, a fake update. So make sure if you get a message always that there is an update, make sure you actually go to the website that provides that application. So if Firefox said that there's an update, go to the website of Firefox and see if there is actually an update. And if there is, download it from that website. Don't download it from the notification that you got. Also, make sure you're downloading it from a HTTPS website. And once you download it, you can inspect it and check it the same way that we've seen before to make sure that there is no backdoors or anything in it. You can also check the MD5 sum to make sure that the file hasn't been manipulated while it was being downloaded. The same when we did the fake Facebook login when you were with Beef. So what you can do is whenever you're told that you got logged out and please log back in, again, ignore that, go to facebook.com, make sure it's going through HTTPS, and then log into Facebook. So always try to be careful with notifications popping up telling you need to do stuff. Always be wary and never trust them.